Hello everyone, my name is Bradley Berg,
And my name is Nico.
and we are here to present Site Development Sustainable Sites Credit 2, Protect and Restore Habitat. We hope you enjoy this presentation and learn enough to not only pass the quiz this coming Monday, but also for the LEED GA examination. The intent of this credit is to conserve existing natural areas and restore damaged areas to provide habitat and promote biodiversity. With this credit, you have the option to achieve a total of 1 to 2 points for all categories except healthcare, and healthcare only 1 point can be achieved. Before we begin looking at the two options, either of which can result in the awarding of points under this section, it is important for us to understand some of the important definitions that will repeat throughout this presentation. Please feel free to pause the video and read through these definitions. While we will not read through them, but they are important to note when understanding some of the steps in credit achievement.
Let us now explore the two options that enable the project to qualify and possibly receive the points to protect or restore site habitat. The first option is on-site restoration. This will include projects and steps to improve the area under development from further habitat destruction. The second option, financial support, involves cold hard cash and enables projects that may not have excess greenfield land on their site to restore or protect to be rewarded a maximum of 1 point.
While choosing which option your project will take on might sound easy, it is not a direct decision. In order to facilitate the choosing of either option, the US GBC has laid out a 6-step process that assists one in determining the option that is best for their project. Steps in the choice process begin with identifying the greenfield areas within the project. Some projects may not have any greenfield areas to develop, and this requires moving directly to step 4. Step 2 is to determine the greenfield area to preserve and protect. The rule is that 40% of total greenfield area must be preserved and protected from all development and construction activity. This second part, protection from construction activity, rolls into step 3 of option guidance. Step 3 is to develop a construction activity management plan for greenfield protection. Here your team will delineate construction buffer zones and communicate these with contractors early in the process. It is important to understand that it isn't only about what is handed to the client at turnover, but throughout the construction process on preserving the natural habitats that previously exist on site. Step 4 is simply choosing which option your team will go with. Option 1 is great if you have greenfield area to restore. Option 2 is great if you do not have on-site restoration work, but can provide financial support to achieve the SS credit. In previous iterations of this credit, it was possible to practice some steps of habitat restoration on another project site. However, this has since been removed as companies were using it as a double credit achievement. If option 1 has been chosen in step 4, step 5 initiates the identification of previously developed site areas. This step enables a better understanding of the native vegetation in the area and which portions of the site will be developed by the project. Finally, step 6 is to determine the anticipated ratio of building footprint to previously developed site area. This calculation supports that notion that building vertically rather than horizontally reduces the land impact and opens greenfield areas to restore and preserve. In addition, if the floor to area (FAR) ratio hits a density minimum of 1.5, your project can qualify for using green roof strategies as substitutes for habitat restoration. And again, at least 40% of the total greenfield area must be preserved and protected from all development and construction activity.
Now we will explore the two options in detail. Option 1. On-site restoration has 6 steps to achievement. The first step is to determine the areas of restoration on site. The project must restore at least 30% of previously developed areas. In order to arrive at a value of 30% or higher, we use equation 1. This equation takes the total restoration area and divides it by the previous developed site area. There is a stipulation for schools only. Dedicated athletic fields used solely for athletic uses are exempted from any soil restoration criteria. In addition, these areas may not count towards the minimum required area. Step 2 is to determine the restoration strategies to be used on site. Restoration on site must use native and adapted vegetation. Step 3 involves identifying the disturbed area that needs to be revegetated on site. An additional note is that some greenfield areas of your site may contain spaces that are not naturally vegetated and thus do not require the planting of vegetation. Proper documentation and preservation of these sites is required to achieve the lead point. Step 4 is to use a certified professional to research soil conditions and reference soils on site. Your team should be looking for soil characteristics such as compaction level, organic matter, infiltration rates, soil biological function, soil chemistry, soil texture, and soil bulk density. It is important to make sure you are analyzing native soils to the site rather than imported materials that may not support the natural habitats of the region. The following slide provides two charts which further depict information regarding soil and their characteristics. Please pause the video and read through this slide to understand the importance of soil character. Step 5 is to restore soils in areas that are to be revegetated. This requires constant testing as well as procurement from a similar ecoregion or state. While similar or native soils stop the spreading of invasive species, the proximity of soil procurement can also help reduce travel distance and CO2 emissions. Step 6 is the restoration of previously developed site areas. Within this step, one must carry out the strategies proposed in Step 2. A unique advantage of constructive vegetated landscapes for rainwater infiltration is that they may be excluded from vegetation or soil restoration requirements. However, they must adhere to the sustainable sites rainwater management criteria.
Option 1 supports on-site alterations, while Option 2 enables point acquisition through the financial support of land trust organizations. Option 2 involves only two steps. The first is determining the amount of financial support, and the second is to identify a qualifying organization to partner with and give financially. The actions of Step 1 require using the below equation, which enables a group to establish the minimum financial support needed for the project. The basics of the equation is an evaluation of 40 cents a square foot, or an equivalent $4 per square meter. These areas are for the total site area, including the building footprint. A quick example of this would be as follows. If we have the given site with a total of 10,000 square feet, even with a building footprint of 4,500 square feet, we would take the total square feet of 10,000 multiplied by 40 cents and arrive at a final evaluation of $4,000. Step 2 is to determine a qualifying partner organization to provide this funding to. The important portion of this step is to find an organization that is certified. Benefiting companies need to be accredited land trust or a conservation organization. This partner organization must provide financial support to a project that meets the proximity criteria indicated in the credit requirements. These organizations must be accredited by the Land Trust Alliance. See video notes for link, and must be in the same Level 3 ecoregion or within the same state as the project. The Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, identifies ecoregions across the U.S. Please see video show notes for the EPA ecoregion website. Some example projects that these funds can be used for include land acquisition, management for natural processes, native habitat restoration, watershed management, restoration or protection, and public urban green space restoration or revitalization.
Moving forward, there are multiple best practices for habitat preservation on site. While we will not read these off, please feel free to pause the video and read them. Text is directly from the book. In addition, there are multiple best practices for habitat restoration. Again, please feel free to pause the video and read through them. The following visual presents an example set of calculations for a hypothetical project. If you focus on the red highlighted area of the chart, this project achieved 37.5% restoration of previously developed site area and 75% restoration of greenfield area on the site, which both fulfilled the basic requirements. Please feel free to reference page 172 of your textbook to find the entire project example and calculations.
The required documentation for this project is as follows for all projects: Greenfield area calculations and description of Greenfield area protection. Next is a list of the documentation required only for projects pursuing option 1. Site plan. This includes areas for project footprint, building footprint, preserved greenfield areas, previously developed areas, and restored areas. Next is a description of disturbed or compacted soils to be revegetated. Third is reference soil characteristics and soil test results. And fourth is projects with vegetative roofs. You need to provide the FAR, or Florida Area Ratio. Finally, the following is a list of the documentation required only for projects pursuing option 2. Financial support calculations, agreement with land trust or conservation organizations, and for U.S. projects, a confirmation that the land trust organization is accredited by the LTA, or the Land Trust Alliance. This portion of the video covers strategies that enable on-site action to achieve points in multiple categories. Please feel free to pause the video and read through these tips. They can save your project money and time on planning and executing different mitigation strategies. For sustainable sites, credit to protect and restore habitat, you can achieve exemplary performance in one way for each option. Option 1 enables a project to complete double the standard 30% restoration requirement. And for option 2, a project team can contribute 80 cents per square foot rather than the 40 cents a square foot to a land trust organization. Thank you for listening to this brief presentation. We hope that you now better understand sustainable sites, credit to, protect and restore habitat. This credit enables the achievement of a maximum of 2 points and stands to help stabilize existing and native habitats to the sites that are under development. While many of the actions can add to the overall project costs, the benefit of planting native vegetation on your site can positively affect the inhabitants and users of the project. Thank you again, and good luck on your quiz.